Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on eBook Essentials, Collection Toolkit Strategies for User Engagement. My name is Rob DiPaolo. I'm the Director of Marketing here at EBSCO, and I'll be moderating the session today. I'd like to start off by introducing our presenter for today, Michelle Astor. Michelle is our head eBooks librarian here at EBSCO, and she'll be taking us through EBSCO's content curation process and how her team builds and designs prepackaged collections to fit the needs of your institution in order to maximize patron usage. Before we begin the actual presentation, I'd like to take just a moment to go over a few quick housekeeping items. The presentation is scheduled for 30 minutes today, and we'll set aside the last few minutes of that time for a question and answer period. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time during the presentation by entering them in the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the presentation today, we will go through your questions and answer as many of them as time allows. Should we not have sufficient time at the end of the session to answer all questions, we will be sure to respond directly to you within a day or two. The session is being recorded today, and the recording will be made available to you in the coming days as well. Please be advised that we have muted all audio lines to avoid feedback and/or interruption during the discussion, and we thank you in advance for keeping your line muted throughout the event. Again, please use the chat box to communicate with the presenter and myself regarding any technical questions that you may have during the session. And without further delay, I'd like to hand things over to Michelle to get us started. Michelle?
Great. Thanks, Rob. Good afternoon, everyone. As Rob said, I'm Michelle Astor. I'm the lead eBooks librarian here and content product manager for eBooks at EBSCO. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar on eBook Essentials. Just to move on to our brief agenda, I'll be introducing you to the staff who make up our collection development team, exploring the various types of eBook collections that we create. And then I'll give you a quick overview on how to easily find these collections so that you can browse them and purchase the titles that are right for your library. So we currently have 4 librarians here devoted to eBook collection development. In addition to myself, we have John Elwell, Stephanie Buck, and Lauren Forsyth. As you can see, we all have advanced degrees in library science, and combined, we share quite a bit of collection development experience, both voluntary. Some of us are on boards and participate in historical societies, local archives, and things like that. And we also have professional collection development experience in various library settings, including community colleges, universities, special libraries, corporate libraries, government research centers, and public libraries as well. So we really value being librarians and being a part of the library and the information community. And additionally, we belong to professional organizations at the state and national levels, because that does help us stay involved in all of the ideas and conversations and the needs that are always being discussed in the library community. And although we're no longer professionally in a traditional library setting, we really strive to remain engaged by attending organization forums, events, and conferences. We follow a lot of the popular blogs, the personal ones, the professional ones that engage members of the library community in a lot of these conversations, and we also stay up to date on the literature that's regularly being produced in the library and in the publishing worlds. We really treat this position here at EBSCO as an opportunity to practice collection development to meet the needs of many different libraries in the various markets across the world. Our goal is to look for and to advocate for the ebook and audiobook content that we know is necessary for libraries in all of these markets and for all of their users. So in addition to following the industry news and conducting our own research on library tools and publishing trends, we work very closely with very different departments here at EBSCO to make sure that we're getting the customer feedback and the user feedback and even the publisher feedback that we need that helps us inform decision-making so that we can acquire the right content and make the right collections for your information needs. So to get into the collections a little bit, we have 4 basic types of collections that are prepackaged for librarians. And 3 of them are here on this slide. We have subject sets, featured collections, and custom collections. We also offer subscription collections, and I will talk about those in just a little bit. But I'd like to start with our subject sets. You may have seen just this past week, we had a press release about our newest release. We release subject sets usually twice a year, and they are some of our most popular ebook collections. They're created to highlight the best front list content for subject-specific needs. And these collections are completely unique amongst themselves. They get a new edition each year if we have the content available. And most subjects, you'll see that we have a 2013 edition, a 2014 edition, and now we're coming out with our 2015 editions as well. So whenever it's possible, and when we get the feedback that tells us we want more content in this area, we do release a yearly edition of those particular subject sets. If we have limited content, or if we notice that interest might wane or be on a different kind of cycle, we might release a new edition of a subject set every 2 years, or maybe every 18 months. But typically you'll see a new nursing subject set, a new leadership and management subject set every year. And again, the most popular topics do include nursing, education, psychology, biology. We have several different subject sets in various areas of business, including career development, leadership and management. We have religion that includes Eastern religions, Western religions. Sometimes we just make a catch-all world religions subject set. And again, these collections are completely unique across all of the years that we release, and also across all of the subjects. So when I say that, I mean that you could buy the 2013, 2014, and 2015 editions of the nursing subject set and know that you will be getting new titles each time. There won't be any titles that appear in multiple years of the same subject. But additionally, you could purchase the 2015 subject set for biology, the 2015 energy subject set, and the 2015 Earth Sciences subject set, and you won't be getting the same title in any of those collections either. We make these strictly unique so that no 2 collections will ever have the same title. And we make this a rule so that it's easy and quick for you to buy these. If you want to know that you can quickly add good titles to your collection without having to wonder if you already own them, these are a great way to do that. We select the titles based on several different criteria, including award status, recommendations, positive reviews from the respected literature, authoritativeness of the authors, and also of the publishers. We build these to be timely, relevant, high-quality collections. And we also want them to be reasonable. We don't make them exhaustive, and we try to keep them priced between about $5,000 and $8,000. And the individual titles within these collections, we try to keep them at the list price below $250. Of course, there are exceptions, especially in some of the science and medical collections. You may see titles that are a bit more expensive. We take into consideration how important this title might be to that field, and so in certain circumstances, we will include titles that we think are critical to a collection. But again, we design these for easy acquisition. We want you to know that you can grab a subject set, the whole thing, or just the titles that you need, and know that you're adding unique, front list, valuable titles to your ebook holdings. Featured collections, on the other hand, are a bit broader than subject sets in scope. These use both front list and back list titles, and the title lists can be anywhere from 20 titles to 20,000 titles long. And as might be obvious, these collections are not unique. We have titles that might appear in 4 or 5 or maybe even 10 collections, depending on the value of that title. This is, the feature collections, an opportunity for us to promote really great titles that might be appropriate for several audiences or markets, or support studies in several subjects. We want to make those titles available to libraries with different needs who might be searching in different places but have the same title as their information need. And while we have this breadth in our approach to featured collections, I do want to point out that the focus of an individual featured collection might be more specific or topical than a subject set. For instance, we have an engineering subject set, and we are starting to make some more specific engineering subject sets, but what we really focus on for those is one strong engineering subject set that highlights the best front list, unique engineering content, and it typically covers biomedical, it'll cover chemical, it'll cover civil, a lot of the different engineering fields. But to supplement that, we create featured collections for those specific fields, including aerospace, mechanical engineering, pharmaceuticals. So again, the featured collections that touch on those really specific areas, they're not unique, they're not necessarily front list, but the titles are quality, and they're meant to make the browsing experience for additional titles easier and more fruitful. So you could enhance your STEM holdings, again, with that engineering subject set, knowing that you're getting award-winning essential front list titles. And then you can supplement with the featured collection that maybe speaks more to the specialized needs of your institution. If you have a really strong aerospace engineering department, we have a collection that might really help in those areas. We also make featured collections in response to popular topics or genres, trends. We have an African American History Month featured collection, for example. We have featured collections for thrillers and mystery novels, for sci-fi, for romance. And in terms of trends and news topics, we find inspiration for featured collections not just in the library or publishing literature, but in the popular media as well. An example would be a response that we had to the U.S. News and World Report article that was published on the top 10 emerging undergraduate degrees. We saw this and realized that this list might drive some information needs to support the studies in these really popular areas, and so we created 10 correlating collections to support those fields. Some of these were data science, biometrics, public health, cybersecurity. So we saw this as an opportunity to anticipate requests that might be coming in from patrons in response to these new highly focused degree programs. And it was great for us to see what titles, were already out there in our collection for these booming fields. And, we're hopeful that as the students in these fields drive their popularity and graduate moving into their professional lives, we'll see even more and more content being made available as they become specialists, and we'll be certain to add these titles to our collections in the future because featured collections do continue to grow. And speaking of that, we have these quite large featured collections that we update monthly for best-selling titles, popular adult fiction and nonfiction titles, academic award-winning titles, youth award-winning titles. We hope that these types of featured collections are particularly helpful when you want to browse our ebook collection, but maybe want to limit to these highly regarded titles. We realize that it may not be necessary to buy every title in the academic award winners collection, but that it may not be desirable to browse 600,000 ebooks either. So these collections are meant to improve the browsing experience so you can still search for the right titles but have far fewer records to sort through. And again, we're continuing to add to collections such as these, that will help you strategically limit our content. We most recently promoted a Choice Outstanding Academic Titles collection. So please let me know. Again, you can comment here, or you can send an email later whenever you've had time to think about it. If this is of interest to you, please let me know if there are other types of collections like these that would help strategically limit our content, make the browsing experience more valuable and fruitful for you. If subject sets or featured collections don't meet your needs, and as we've discussed, searching over 600,000 titles isn't going to quite fit into your schedule, which I can understand, custom collections might be the perfect fit for you. Working with your EBSCO representative, you can identify the exact subjects that you need at the right budget for your library. You can specify keywords, authors, publishers, languages, any that you want, any that you don't want to. That's really helpful for us to know what we should be kind of pushing away from a collection. You can limit to titles under a certain price or within a certain range. You can let us know which publication dates are of interest to you, and so on. If you only want titles at the one book, one user model or at the unlimited user model, we can work with that too. So these collections really are created just for you to meet your library's specific needs, and we really love doing them. These are great opportunities for us to discover titles in our collection that we might overlook. I recently did a collection that referenced Arctic security, and that was such an interesting thing for me to look up because I did find titles that I probably wouldn't have known we had otherwise. So it helps us keep in touch with the specific needs that are being communicated globally to librarians from their patrons. And because, you know, this is important, as I mentioned before, in addition to working with the titles that we have, we advocate for the content and the titles that we don't have. So ask your representative for any ebook need that comes up. If it doesn't seem to be met by our available ebook collections, we can certainly look for it. And if we find it in our collection, we'll get it to you. And if we don't have it, we'll work with our publisher relations team to see if we can acquire that content. The last type of collection I want to touch on is the subscription collection. These are an affordable way to quickly boost your ebook collection, either broadly in a multidisciplinary package or in a specific subject area. We have collections ranging from, again, those very comprehensive, multidisciplinary, 130,000 titles plus collections, all the way to more subject-specific title collections, which are roughly between 4,000 and 10,000. They all continue to grow. We do update them regularly. But one of the nuances with subscription collections is that we're also required to remove titles as they become ineligible based on different restrictions that are communicated to us from our publisher relationships. So unfortunately, we do have to remove these titles, but we do our best to limit the inconvenience to you. So we schedule these removals for January and July so that they are timed as well as possible with breaks in the academic calendar. Additions are made quarterly, however, at no additional cost. And again, broad to subject-specific. If subject-specific is interesting to you, we cover religion, education, business, history, engineering. And again, we also have those broad collections that address everything from A to Z for the academic market, high school markets, K-8, public library. We have some very specific corporate subscriptions for career development, for the IT folks. So we're really working on making these packages available to meet different needs for the entire library and all of your users. And so the last thing I wanted to show you here is a bit about how to find some of these collections for your own browsing and purchasing. So what we're looking at here is a screenshot of the EBSCOhost Collection Manager, or ECM. And with the exception of custom collections and subscriptions, which are best requested through your representative so you can get the right needs met for you that way, our subject sets and our featured collections can be found quickly and easily right here on ECM. So you can see here that we do highlight some of our recent and popular collections. Right now we're featuring that Choice Outstanding Academic Titles collection I told you about, and also the popular adult fiction and popular adult nonfiction collections. And these featured collections you can access simply by clicking on the icons or on the links below. But if you'd like to find all of our collections, you can use the menu on the top left of the screen and select either subject sets or collections, which is the ECM term for featured collections, since featured collections is a bit of a mouthful and it takes up some valuable real estate on the screen, so we've just shortened it to collections. So you would select which ones you'd like to browse here. And again, just to clarify which one, if you're unsure where you should start, subject sets are best if you're really looking for highly focused, unique, frontlist content that you can confidently buy all in one go, or you can just select the titles that you need. Featured collections run the gamut from very focused title lists on niche subjects like video game design, all the way to broad lists of award winners and popular titles. And these are more conducive to browsing or for kicking off your own search for the best titles for your needs. So once you've selected your heading, and I'm going to select collections, you can view all. Underneath that red circle I have on there, the first option is all collections, but I've already selected arts and humanities because you can drill down into the more specific subject area of interest. And so once you've selected your broad category, you'll see the list displayed of all the collections that are available for that subject area. So again, under just arts and humanities, you can see that we have everything from architecture and interior design to a host of theology and religion collections. We even have audiobook collections available in here. Again, the Choice Outstanding Academic Titles collection is here. So we have a variety of options available. And you won't find the same collections under different subject headings. So if you're not sure what you're looking for, again, you might want to select all collections or go ahead and click through all the different ones available. But to show you a bit what this collection will look like in ECM, I'm going to select Fine Art. And here, again, just a brief snapshot of what you'll see when you enter into a particular collection. You'll see underneath the title of the collection how many books are included. Right now, this has 90 titles in it. And if I were to buy the entire collection at list price, or one book, one user price, it would be $2,657.17. Of course, the price changes depending on the user models that you pick, or the access models, excuse me, that you choose. But this is roughly what you'd be paying for all 90 of those titles. And again, as you look down, you can see the publishers represented, the titles and the years, and so on. So from here, you can browse, pick the titles that you need, buy the whole thing, whatever meets your needs. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I hope that this has been a helpful introduction to collection development here and the products that we create to facilitate collection development and acquisition for you. And again, you know, my team, we don't work in a traditional library, but we still consider ourselves practicing librarians. Our sole responsibility here at EBSCO is to very closely know the almost, I think, 700,000 ebooks and audiobooks that we have and organize these into collections that will simplify ebook and audiobook acquisition for all of you. So I absolutely welcome your feedback, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to help with them right now.
Thank you, Michelle. That was fantastic. I love these sessions myself. I always tend to learn a few things, which is great. Anyway, yeah, we do have a couple questions that have come in already. A couple of, are actually somewhat related. See if I can ask them together. One is regarding the custom collections, if there are any minimum limits, such as a spend limit, minimum number of titles, et cetera. Then the other question that's related to that is, in general, is there any sort of a minimum number of orders for ebooks that people need to when they place an order?
I believe the minimum order for custom collections is set, and I think talking with the representative is the best choice because I'm not entirely sure what that is right now. However, I don't believe you are required to buy any of the titles that we suggest. We hope that they will be the right fit, but it doesn't come with a necessary purchase. It's just a matter, I believe, of asking for enough content that makes a custom collection worthwhile. So, you know, it doesn't need to be at least 100 titles. Sometimes, depending on how expensive some of these titles are, the lists only end up being about 50 titles anyway for some of those medical subjects. But I would clarify with the representative, but it's not a hard limit by any means.
So the idea is they request the custom collection, you and your team provide that, and then from that suggested collection, they make their final decision based on that.
Exactly.
Gotcha, I gotcha. On a related note with regard to the custom collections, what's the estimated turnaround time for that once they've placed their request and provided their rep with the right information? Roughly how long does it take your team to turn those around? I'm sure it varies by length, but.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I actually meant to touch on it. We have a stated 2-week turnaround time, 10 business days, but we typically get them out much quicker than that. I would say that we turn them around to the representative typically within 3 to 5 business days. I can't comment on how quickly the rep will get them back to you, but I'm sure it's pretty soon after we hand them off because we know how important those are.
No, that's great. Again, just remind folks, too, that if you have any questions, we do have a couple more here that I'll get to in a second. If you have any, please feel free to ask them now, or if you have any you'd like to ask separately afterwards, you can obviously email Michelle at her email, which is on the screen now, and she'll get back to you directly. I do have at least one more here that's come through, though, is kind of a more general question, is how do you dedupe the overlap in various collections?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if this is related to deduping in terms of what a customer already owns. If that's what they mean, we have an algorithm built into our collection management tool that prevents us from using owned titles in a collection that we build for a specific customer, so we will never send a list of titles that include any that you already own through us. And similarly, when we build a collection, whether it's a subscription or a subject set, we have similar logic built into our tools that prevent us from using the same title twice. We actually get an error if we try to.
Okay. Does that work? Okay, so you would actually take that into account. So if somebody had a subscription collection and they requested a collection, something more custom, you'd realize that they already have a subscription collection. Would you base it on that as well, or is that treated differently?
It does include that as well. Any title, again, if this is customer specific, if they already own or share a title, if it's in a PDA list but hasn't yet been purchased, we are aware of the customer's, you know, quote unquote access to that title, and we won't be able to provide it to them again through our tool. We could certainly manually offer it to them, but it's prevented from appearing in a list.
Okay. No, that's great. Great answer. I think we're just about reaching the end of the time here, and I think that's about it for the questions that have come in.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to add for wrapping up here? Or?
No, again, I'd just like to reiterate that I absolutely welcome feedback. Again, you know, we're all librarians, and we really value hearing from the customers, from our colleagues, because our ebook packages, you know, we've tried to make them normalized. We've tried to sort of come up with like a system for them, but I don't think that they're static by any means. So if there are things that we can be doing to improve them, if there are suggestions for them, I absolutely welcome that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Oh, actually, I did get one more question just popped up here. Wanting to know. Oh, okay. This is in relation to the deduping question. What about books purchased through other, through like our partners such as YVP, or I imagine that might also apply to somebody like Gobi or something like that as well? Are you able to take that for deduping?
If it's purchased through YVP or Gobi, and we were the vendor, then it still is considered an owned title and we'll know about it. If it was bought through another vendor, that's something that we would need to be provided to us. If a customer could share with us the list of owned titles, we can manually, again, you know, prevent those from being included. But because we don't have access to all of that information, we do need a hand there.
Sure. So as long as we're the actual ebook vendor, regardless of who they purchased the ebooks from, your team will have that information.
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we're right at the bottom of the hour. Bottom of the hour, 2:30. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending our session today. Just let everyone know as you close out of the session, you will be directed to our eBooks homepage where you can view all of our collections and subject sets and so forth as Michelle described, and you can also request more information there. In addition, you will receive an email from us within the next few days with a link to the recording of today's session, along with additional contact information should you have any further questions or comments. So thank you again for joining us today, and thank you, Michelle, and have a great day, everyone.